this is Morgan Stradling with the Rotoscopers in collaboration with Bleeding Cool, and I have some big news for you guys today. And by big, I mean Big Hero 6. So Big Hero 6 is the 54th animated film from Walt Disney Animation Studios. The 53rd one, Frozen, isn't even out yet, and we're already super excited and ready to talk about Big Hero 6. So many of you may not know, Big Hero 6 is a property by Marvel, and Disney purchased Marvel in 2009, and there was all these rumors and expectations that at some point Disney was going to do a Disney Marvel animated film. And guess what? Big Hero 6 is the first one that they will do. So Big Hero 6 really isn't that well known by the general public. It's not as big, obviously, as Spider-Man or the Avengers, and as a result, Big Hero 6 is going to have some plot changes and some different, tweaks with the characters and origin stories. And this is good. They're going to start fresh with this and sort of use this as a springboard for a brand new franchise. So let's dive into this exclusive info and let's start talking about the plot. We don't really know much about the plot. There has been a little bit given at maybe D23 or in different press releases, but not enough to really get people excited. So we know this film is set in a fictional city in the future called San Francisco, which happens to be a combination of Tokyo and San Francisco. You get the best of both worlds. Now the film follows this boy genius named Hiro Hamada as he builds this robot to kind of take the place of his brother who recently was killed. He's obviously very upset about this and he's dead set on finding out who the identity of the killer is. But he can't do it alone, so he gets this group of young vigilantes together and they are going to figure out who done it. Okay, now that you know a little bit about the plot, let's go into the characters. So obviously our lead character is Hiro Hamada. He's a 14-year-old boy genius. Think Jimmy Neutron, but not as lame. And usually when you're smarter than everyone else and you really are just this genius, you kind of have a hard time playing with others and playing nice. He doesn't get along well with others. He's sort of misunderstood. And as a result, he just doesn't really fit in. And that's kind of like a struggle for him, but at the same time, he doesn't really care. He just sort of does what he does. He's actually a college student at San Francisco Tech with his brother Tadashi, who we'll talk about in a little bit. And together they are part of this science club research team that his older brother Tadashi is in charge of. With being so smart, Hiro, he feels this pressure that he's supposed to do something awesome with it, like sort of like Tony Stark, like use your abilities and your genius to save the world, but he doesn't really want to. He just wants to build fighting robots. Real steel Robot Wars style. That's all he cares about. I can't blame him. He's a teenage boy. All the teenage boys that I know, all they're into are sports and video games and fighting. Well, there you go. So let's talk about Tadashi. Tadashi is the older brother of Hiro, and these two couldn't be more polar opposites. Tadashi is very loving, kind, he wants to help others, he wants to nurture them, while Hiro really is just in it to do fighting robots and he's in it for himself. As a result, Tadashi is making this robot that's a caregiver robot. It's made of sort of this soft, inflatable plastic material, so that way when it's helping you, it won't be able to injure you with, all this metal and pokiness. It really goes along with his personality and what he is all about. He's all about helping others. As a result, he really kind of feels this need to really strengthen and grow Hiro's gift. So that way, Hiro isn't just like in his basement building robots the rest of his life that are just going to fight other robots, but he's actually going to do something. So Tadashi really feels this obligation to help his brother. And obviously they're related in their family and their blood, so that's a big thing to him. So as we said, Hiro and Tadashi are sort of part of this research science team, and Tadashi is the leader of it. And he really sort of has this gang of friends, and they are all doing individual projects, but they're ultimately going to lead up to a big team competition. So yes, while it's important that you do your individual part, he's kind of making sure that the team all works together. And obviously there's some inner conflicts, especially with someone as individualistic as Hiro. So this research team obviously consists of Tadashi, who's the leader, Hiro, Wasabi no Ginger, Honey Lemon, Go Tomago, and Fred. Just Fred. I'll talk a little bit about them later, but this is kind of the main group in the bunch. So while we're on the topic of the university, let's talk about some of these other characters. So the main professor involved in sort of the sciences is Dr. Martin Lieber, and he teaches a class in which Hiro is a member of, and he's really not a big fan of Hiro. I get it. If you've been working 30 years in your field and all of a sudden some 14-year-old hotshot punk kid comes in the way and he knows more than you know, it'd be pretty frustrating. So he's not a big fan of Hiro. Alright, so let's talk about some of the other members of this research team. So first we're going to talk about Wasabi no Ginger. Wasabi no Ginger is this African-American student who's really into this idea of creating a plasma blade. Basically, it's like a plasma beam that can cut things, but it won't cut humans. So like if you're cutting like dinner it will cut the food, and if you accidentally touch your body, it's not going to cut you. Like, he's really into that, and that's the project that he's focusing on. He's very quiet, he's a man of few words. You're not going to hear him speak very much, but when he does speak, everyone turns and listens because it's usually something pretty important. He's very disciplined and patient, but there are some members of the team that really push his buttons, mainly Fred. I mean, it's always Fred. Alright, so now let's talk about Honey Lemon. Honey Lemon is actually this super cute, bubbly, blonde girl. She's actually sort of like a female Walter White, and I'm not saying that she's into cooking meth. She's really, really into chemistry. And another one of her passions is she actually really likes to blow things up. So she's really in a great field for her interests because, I mean, you mix the right chemicals together and kaboom. But she doesn't really tell anyone she likes to blow things up. That's sort of her secret. Honey Lemon, she's like very concerned about her clothes and into fashion. She's very girly, but I wouldn't say she's fashionable. She's maybe more fashion forward. Like, you wouldn't go and find her outfit on the rack anywhere. It's like this thing that she concocted up, and it totally works for her. And so that's kind of her way that she stands out. I mean, but she does it not to get attention from boys or other people, but she really just does it because it's an extension of herself. All these different, like, really random things just inspire her to create outfits. Unfortunately, this sort of ticks off Go Tomago, the other girl of the group, who really does think that she's doing it to get the boys' attention. And so, I mean, they're kind of button heads about that because Go Tomago thinks she's sort of fake and trying to get all this attention, while Honey Lemon, like, really is just trying to be, like, genuine about it. So let's talk about Go Tomago. Now, Go Tomago is complete opposite of Honey Lemon. She's the sporty girl who's really into biking and cycling and, like, anything X Games, like, that's her. And since she's really into these sports, she's super competitive. She's definitely the most competitive out of the bunch. And that's why, obviously, she has a really hard time taking orders from Hiro when eventually they form Big Hero 6. I mean, I grew up in sports, and I know how it is. You want to be number one always, especially Go Tomago. So that's kind of going to be her inner conflict, is like, ugh, this 14-year-old snot is telling me what to do. And lastly, there's Fred. I mean, everyone else gets these really cool, like, Japanese names, and he's just Fred. And that pretty much sums up Fred. Like, Fred, you know, he originally, they're not quite sure if he's even, like, a student. He doesn't even go here! But the reason he's there is because he was kind of like a lab rat for Tadashi with, like, his robot experience and sort of just stuck around. So as a result, he doesn't have a project or anything that he really contributes to the team. He's just there. And that's kind of annoying because when you're working really hard on your project and you know everyone else on your team is too, and then you have this, like, freeloader who's just hanging out, yeah, it's not cool. But Fred isn't a total bump on the log. Actually, he has some ambition and drive to him. So when everyone leaves the lab at the end of the day, Fred stays in the lab. And what he does in the lab is he makes movies. So he's making a movie called Kaiju Grand. And this actually just consists of just Fred. Like, there's nobody else on scene. And it's just him in a rubber suit stomping on boxes. And since Fred is Fred, he has somehow managed to get the other students to help him make his movie. Doesn't really make sense because he's not helping them, but again, Fred. One other person I forgot to mention is Hiro and Tadashi's mom, Cass. Cass is super nice. She's actually more like Tadashi than Hiro. She's nice, she's friendly, she's sort of like this Pleasantville type mom who's just very caring about her kids. And so she loves her two children, she's very happy for them. But on the side, she also has sort of like this coffee shop that's in the bottom level of her house, and that's sort of how she makes her money. Alright, so let's talk about the villain. The villain's name is Yokai, and he actually kind of disguises himself with this kabuki mask, you know, very ornate, and he really just wants to build this big machine to get him into another dimension. Yeah, pretty crazy, right? But that's kind of what he wants to do. And so as a result, he's combined some of the biggest and most nefarious criminals in all of San Francisco, and he's helping them steal all the parts that he needs to create this big machine. And lastly, let's talk about Baymax. Baymax is actually pretty crucial to the story. So after Tadashi is killed, Hiro takes Tadashi's caregiver robot and kind of converts him into Baymax. And Baymax is sort of a combination of the caregiver robot and the fighting robot. And they come together and there's the good and bad of both of them. Obviously, Hiro loves fighting and now he's on this quest to avenge his brother's death. So he has built this full suit of armor for Baymax, kind of defeating the original purpose of the soft, pliable material that was the original, you know, Tadashi vision. But, you know, he doesn't really care. He just really wants to figure out who did this. He sort of had these pre-recorded messages that would say, very caregiver things, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how great is your pain? And Hiro can't figure out how to reprogram him. So this is all the guy says. And it's very, very frustrating to Hiro because Hiro's this boy genius who should figure out how to do this. He should know better, but he can't. So guys, that is Big Hero 6 for you guys. That's finally a little bit more into the plot and the characters. As you can tell, this is definitely like a deviation from the original Big Hero 6 source material, but really it is for the better because not very many people know about this, so this is a new way for Disney to springboard this new franchise and really go from there. And, you know, I hope that Big Hero 6 does really well. It sounds really exciting. I'm actually a lot more interested in this movie now that I know about these characters and the plot than I was before. Obviously, this is going to be a bit more like Wreck-It Ralph, where it's targeted naturally toward the boys, but I think these girl characters actually will do a lot for the movie and kind of make it a bit more relatable to the girls. But that being said, that never stopped girls from going to see, you know, superhero movies in the first place. So I really think that if Disney can get this right, it's going to be really, really fantastic. And hey, this is something completely different from your classic Disney animated picture. So unfortunately, that is all I have for you, but that was a lot of stuff about Big Hero 6. But at least this is a little something to get you talking about the movie and really excited for when it ultimately comes out on November 7th, 2014. So let me know what you guys think about Big Hero 6 in the comments below. Do you like where this is going? Do you not like the changes they made from the source material? Let us know. And again, this is a collaboration between the Rotoscopers and Bleeding Cool. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on what we have next.